Hey guys, welcome back to Bombchu. I'm Austin, and today I'll be taking a look at the early reveal games from the upcoming April 2018 Humble Monthly Bundle. These are the games that you get early if you buy the bundle before April 6th, plus the other games that will be revealed that day. With that out of the way, let's get to it. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided is the sequel to Deus Ex: Human Revolution, and picks up 2 years after that game. I have to be honest, I haven't played Human Revolution yet, so I can't really compare the two, but as this game tells you, it's a standalone experience. You play as Adam Jensen, an augmented human. Before your first mission begins, your commanding officer asks you a couple of questions to determine how you'll approach the mission. You can go lethal or non-lethal, with story explanations as to why you might pick either option, and you can choose to shoot from afar or get up close and personal. It was really nice getting to pick my loadout with dialogue options, as when I'm given a screen to change all my equipment out before ever having played a game, I don't really know what to pick and get overwhelmed and go with the defaults. I chose to go non-lethal and up close and personal, so I ended up doing a lot of stealth knockouts. Thankfully my default augments were geared for this, as I had an augment that could silence my footsteps, and an augment that could make me invisible. However, these use energy, and so does the strength augment used for knocking out enemies, so I couldn't just cheese the level with silence or invisibility. Controls took some getting used to, though there are a number of control schemes to choose from if the default setup isn't to your liking, each with a descriptor of who they're geared towards. I think what impresses me most about this game is how many options you have all over the place, but they're handled in a way that isn't overwhelming, which is usually the case for me in a game like this. It's approachable without sacrificing complexity. I'll definitely play more. God Eater 2 Rage Burst is an action game similar to Monster Hunter and set in a futuristic anime universe. Your main missions here have you fighting large boss monsters with tons of health and crafting gear out of their parts. You're encouraged to bring a group to help, as things can get overwhelming alone. Different from Monster Hunter, you always have a melee and a ranged weapon. You charge up ammo for your ranged weapon by using your melee weapon, and then switch over to unleash the damage. You can also use your weapon to take a bite out of monsters, which will give you a buff and some special ammo depending on what type of monster it is. Having played a lot of Monster Hunter, it was difficult to wrap my head around everything in this game initially because the naming scheme is pretty obtuse, and it doesn't help that the controls are pretty convoluted to figure out as well. Once you know them, they don't feel bad, but actually figuring them out is a real pain. For example, the run button is the same button you use to switch your weapon between melee and ranged. You just hold it down if you want to run. It also takes a significant amount of time to actually fight a boss, as the first several missions are just fighting several regular enemies. Throughout those levels, I couldn't find myself recommending this game, but once I reached some actual bosses, my buddy and I started having some fun. If you're still waiting for Monster Hunter World to hit PC later this year, I would personally recommend Tukiden over God Eater, but there are worse ways you could spend your time. Mafia III is an open-world action game set in the 60s. You play as Lincoln Clay, a Vietnam War soldier who had to join the Black Mob out of necessity after returning home from the war. The gameplay is largely based on Grand Theft Auto. You can go pretty much anywhere and do anything. If the police see you breaking the law, they come after you. You can drive safely and follow traffic lights, or you can do stuff like this. While I was doing this, there was a guy in the car with me trying to talk to me, and every time I crashed into something, he'd yell about something and then say, "Anyway," before returning to his story. Anyway, this game places a heavy emphasis on story, and from what I've played so far, it's a pretty interesting one. Unfortunately, this also means that gameplay takes a bit of a backseat. Movement either locks you down to a snail's pace or feels so slippery that I constantly run past whatever I'm trying to reach. Gunplay doesn't feel satisfying either. Presentation is also a mixed bag, which is a damn shame. The clothes, the menus, the signs, the cars all gush 60s charm. And the licensed soundtrack is excellent, though I won't be playing any of it here to avoid copyright claims. However, this is all marred by performance issues and kind of dumbed down graphics. The game also defaults to 30 frames per second, and while you can thankfully increase it to 60 or uncapped, there are a lot of elements that are hard-coded to render at 30 FPS. It's clear this was developed as console first, and PC wasn't really considered heavily during development. I may continue just to get some more of the story, but if the gameplay doesn't pick up, I may just watch the rest of this one on YouTube. Well guys, that's all I have for you today. Come back after the bundle launches April 6th for a look at the rest of the games. See you then.